Chapter 11, Service Level Management, Knowing What You Pay For. Network Management Fundamentals. Motivation for service level agreements. Service providers, providers of networking service, runs networks and data centers not just for the heck of it, but so that the benefits can be derived from the services that run over it. Some examples. In the case of an enterprise IT department, the beneficiaries are the various groups and employees of the enterprise that require data and voice services as part of their technical infrastructure. Another example, in the case of a traditional service provider, the beneficiaries might be residential customers who want internet connections, telephone services, and perhaps digital television. Identification of service level parameters. A parameter in an SLA must meet 3 criteria: significance, relevance, and measurability. For significance, it must be significant and meaningful for the service that is being defined. Relevance, it must be relevant to the context in which the service will be issued. Measurability, it must be measurable and objectives are verified. Defining a service level agreement. An SLA needs to answer a number of questions. What will the service provider deliver? What are the service level objectives? How will service level objectives be tracked and verified? And what will happen if the service provider fails to? Definition of service level objectives. When deciding which service level objectives to include, you need to make a number of considerations. First, determine which service level parameters and which service level of objectives are really critical to your needs. To identify candidate service level parameters, remember that they must meet the criteria that is significant, relevant, and measurable, as I discussed before. This is important not only to avoid disputes later, but it can also help identify any misunderstandings about what the service level parameters are. Dealing with service level violations. Despite all the best intentions of everyone that is involved, the possibility exists that service level objectives will be violated. To prepare for such cases, such as a good SLA needs to clearly spell out what will happen in such an event. Restoring the agreed to service level, which needs to happen first. The plan of action should include commitments such as the following. Number 1, inform the customer when a service level violation is detected. Usually this needs to happen without undue delay and within a short time interval. Provide the customer with regular updates on the current status of problem resolution at specific time intervals. Number 3, take adequate action to respond to a service level violation within a certain time interval. And number 4, restore service levels within a certain time interval. Managing for a success level. Now, the SLA needs to be delivered on. This includes a number of aspects such as the service needs to be set up, the network must be built out and resources allocated so the service level objectives can be supported. When the service is operational, it must be constantly monitored to ensure that service level objectives that were promised are being met. And finally, statistical data must be collected as proof that the agreed to service level is being detected. Decomposing service level parameters. In this example, an application service provider hosts a set of applications in a data card that is accessible over a network. Second example is that of a global long distance voice service enabling users to call internet. Planning network for a given service level. This is the first step towards successfully meeting service level objectives and consists of setting up the service properly so that the service level objectives can be met. Diminishing networks to meet service level objectives. When diminishing a network to meet service level objectives, it helps to decompose the service into its individual components. Subsequently, the required dimensions for each component is established dependent in its role and contributes toward meeting service level objectives. Service level monitoring, setting up early warning systems. Service level monitoring can accordingly roughly be divided into 2 aspects: monitoring service level parameters and detecting when problems are about to occur. Monitoring service level parameters, analyzing management information. This includes the following: NetFlow and IPFix records, which contains a lot of information about network flow. SNMP MIBs, which includes many objectives with information about device state and device performance polled for this information, and syslog messages, which could include certain problems in the network. Service level statistics, it's finger pointing good. In addition to monitoring and ensuring service levels, it is also important to keep a record of the service levels that are experienced over the course of time, because such a record can prove of tremendous value if a dispute between service providers and customers occur. And that is the end of my Chapter 11 presentation.